Hi everyone, welcome to Franklin University. Let me just start by introducing myself. My name is Hyeran Jeong. I'm a student in the nursing department. The title of today's presentation is Tuskegee Study Presentation. As you can see, I've divided my talk into 5 parts. Number 1, background. Number 2, ethical and legal issues. Number 3, impact of research for social and health professionals. Number 4, examples of the legal and ethical principles used to mitigate risk. The last thing is recommend ways healthcare professions can avoid similar issues. Okay, let's move on to the first point. Number 1, background. Tuskegee study is a non-therapy experiment in which human rights were violated, which began in 1932 and ceased in 1973. After selecting poor and illiterate black men suffering from latent syphilis, the U.S. Federal Health Agency conducted a clinical study with Tuskegee University. They blocked information about the treatment and did not treat black people with syphilis even after penicillin spread in the late 1940s. This picture shows a black man has been drawn by a doctor in Tuskegee. Moving on to the next point, number 2, ethical and legal issues. Despite the development of penicillin in 1943, the head of the Tuskegee syphilis experiment did not inform patients. Ethical principles and legal issues such as justice and human respect has been raised. In human experiments, humans have the legal ability to agree and the ability to choose freely. And our medical experiment should always follow the subject voluntary consent and ethical, legal, and moral issues in the experimental process. It must be for sound moral reason that someone ought to do whatever it is that he morally ought to do. Valid moral obligations must rest on the cogent moral ground. Nicholas. Let's now turn to part 3. Impact of research for social and health professionals. Cultural competence goes beyond understanding and respect for cultural diversity in which various ethnic groups exist, followed by values and ethical responsibility. It should be emphasized in the norm that equality of human rights and opportunity for minorities should be given equally. Title 6 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. And as NJ, SNCC. Okay. Move on. The commission, created as a result of the National Research Act of 1974, was charged with identifying the basic ethical principles that should underlie the conduct of biomedical and behavioral research involving human subjects, and developing guidelines to assure that such research is conducted in accordance with those principles. HHS. In many clinical studies and medical experiments on human subjects must obtain voluntary consent after notification. That brings us to our next point 4. Examples of legal and ethical principles used to mitigate risk. First one is Belmont Report. The Belmont Report identified 3 basic ethical principles regarding our human subject research. First one is respect for persons. Number 2, beneficence. And last one is justice. First one, respect for people, requires medical researchers to obtain informed consent from study participants. In other words, participants should receive the detailed explanations. For example, situation, pros and cons of treatment, and information from medical research so that they can choose and decide what will happen. Second one, benefit. Participants should be informed about the benefits and risk and treatment. The last one is definition. Researchers should be chosen fairly and randomly. And another example, Nuremberg Court. After World War II, the Nuremberg International Military Tribunal opened, and the ethical standards for medical research were created through criticism and reflection on doctors and scientists who conduct human experiments. Cruel human experiments carried out by Nazis during World War II were conducted under the leadership of medical personnel. The law for regulation by establishing correct principles. The principle of clinical trials is that voluntary consent of participants in the experiment and sufficient information should be provided to the study subject. Okay, let's now turn to part 5. Recommend ways healthcare professions can avoid similar issues. Everyone should enjoy equal rights to health and well-being. All people are created equal and deserve all rights and freedoms. In order to resolve health inequality, unfair structure, practice, and perceptions across society must be changed. Everyone needs to act abide by strong laws to prevent past misfortunes from being repeated. To conclude, I'd like to say that is human testing necessary for the weak in society under the name of syphilis treatment? Even if the result of a human experiment bring many benefits, an ethical experiment in the experimental process should not exist. Their actions against the human experiment, against humanity, cannot be justified. There has been a steady stream of racism-related racial inequality around the world. There is no doubt that in the past some races have been harmed and treated unfairly in unfair ways. In order to address the health inequality, unfair structure, practice, and perceptions across society must be changed. And overall, our life and human rights are precious. Everyone should enjoy equal rights to health and well-being. All people are born equal and deserve all rights and freedoms. Okay, thank you for your attention. I hope that this has been useful. Thank you.